Have you ever thought about Japanese politeness and felt like it's this super complex, unwritten code? Well, today, we're going to crack that code. We're not just going to look at what people do, we're going to dive deep into the why, the philosophy of respect that makes every single gesture meaningful. So let's get into it.
And we're starting with the one idea that unlocks everything else. This quote from Dr. Inazo Nitobe, written way back in 1899, just nails it. Japanese politeness isn't about following stiff, empty rules. It's about a real, genuine concern for how other people feel. Seriously, keep this idea in your head, because everything we talk about today connects right back to this.
All right, so let's start right there, at the foundation. Before we even get to things like bowing or how to exchange business cards, we've got to understand the why, the philosophical ideas that give all those actions their power. So a huge piece of this puzzle is Confucianism. It's a philosophy that really shaped the culture, putting a huge emphasis on social harmony. Things like loyalty, modesty, and this is a big one, respect for your place in the hierarchy, based on age and rank. They're absolutely central. This is the bedrock for why there's such a deep respect for elders and superiors in Japanese society. And look, this is so important to remember. No one expects you, as a visitor or a foreigner, to get every single custom perfect. That's not the point. This isn't about becoming a perfect mimic. It's about getting the intention behind it all. When you understand the why, that's when you can build real, strong relationships, whether you're there for business or just making friends.
Okay, so let's see how this whole philosophy of respect is literally built into the Japanese language itself. This isn't some abstract idea. It's coded right into the words people use every single day to talk to each other.
This is honestly fascinating. The system of honorifics, called keigo, basically works in two directions at the same time. On one hand, you've got sonkeigo, which is the language of respect. You use special vocabulary to literally elevate the status of the person you're talking to. And on the other hand, you have kenjogo, the language of modesty, where you use different words to lower your own status. It's this amazing linguistic balancing act, all designed to maintain harmony and show respect.
Now, this brings us to something that can be a real point of confusion for outsiders, what some people call the gray zone. See, in a culture where social harmony is king, a direct, blunt no can feel really jarring and confrontational. So, to avoid causing offense, communication often becomes a lot more indirect.
And yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If people don't just come out and say no, how are you supposed to know what they actually mean? Well, the key isn't just listening to the words. You have to pay super close attention to the nuance, the tone of voice, body language, all the nonverbal stuff. A hesitant yes, or that might be difficult, is very often a very polite way of saying no.
And just a quick practical tip on names, because this is a big one. The standard order is family name first, then the given name. So in almost any business or formal setting, you'll use their family name plus son, like Tanaka-san. Using a first name is something you only do when you have a much closer personal relationship.
Okay, so we've talked about the philosophy, we've talked about the language. Now let's get into how this respect is shown physically, through the everyday rituals and gestures that really do speak louder than words. So let's say you're lucky enough to be invited to a Japanese home. Here are some key things to know. Taking off your shoes is a must. It's about making a clean break between the dirty outside world and the pure inside space of the home. You'll also want to bring a small gift, but notice the humility here. You present it by saying something like, "This is just a small thing," which shows you're not bragging. Even where you sit matters. The guest of honor gets the safest, best seat, farthest from the door.
Of course, we have to talk about bowing. It's probably the most iconic Japanese gesture, right? But it's so much more than a greeting. It's this all-purpose physical sign of respect used to say thank you, to apologize, to say hello and goodbye. And the deeper and longer the bow, the more respect you're showing. And here's a really interesting little cultural fact where superstition and politeness meet. The numbers 4 and 9 are often seen as unlucky. Why? Because the way you pronounce them, shi and ku, sound exactly like the words for death and suffering. So, out of consideration for other people's feelings, you'll often see buildings like hotels or hospitals just skip those numbers for floors or rooms.
The business card exchange, or meishi, is a huge deal, and it's a perfect example of respect in action. You offer your card with both hands, like you're presenting a gift. You receive their card with both hands, showing you value it. And then, you don't just stuff it in your pocket. You treat it with respect, leaving it on the table for the whole meeting. The idea is that the card is an extension of the person themselves.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about something we can all connect with: food. Just like everything else we've seen, the core principles of harmony and respect are beautifully played out in Japanese dining etiquette. To even begin to understand Japanese food, you have to start with rice. I mean, it's been the absolute staple for thousands of years. The entire cuisine, every dish, is designed to go with it, to harmonize with it. Respect for the meal really begins with respect for the rice.
So, a formal meal isn't just about eating. It's a carefully orchestrated experience. It's an act of hospitality that takes you on a journey through all these different flavors and cooking styles, from raw to grilled to fried. This amazing variety is how a host shows respect for their guest, highlighting the natural, fresh flavors of every single ingredient.
And hey, even sushi, probably Japan's most famous culinary export, has a really cool origin story. The style we all know and love today, nigiri sushi, actually started out as a kind of fast food back in the 1800s in Edo, which is now Tokyo. It was a genius way to quickly serve up the incredibly fresh fish being pulled right out of Tokyo Bay.
So we've covered a lot, right? The big ideas, the words, the gestures, the food. Now let's just take a step back and tie it all together, bring it back to that core idea we started with.
And this is really the most important takeaway. The specific actions, the bowing, the honorific language, the way you handle a business card, they might be unique to Japan. But the feeling behind them, that deep sympathetic respect for other people, well, that's a universal value. That's something that connects us all.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. What would happen if we changed our own perspective on this? What if instead of seeing politeness in any culture as just a long list of do's and don'ts, we started to see it for what it really is, a simple, practical, everyday way of showing empathy?
And you know, a really great way to put that empathy into practice is to just try using the language. Even learning a few simple phrases shows that you're making an effort, that you care. From itadakimasu before you eat, which is a way of expressing gratitude, to a simple arigatou gozaimasu, these words carry that very spirit of respect we've been talking about. Thanks so much for joining me for this one.